I saw your name in the IMDb credits of the 1989 original Little Mermaid. And I saw your name as I was watching the movie. I saw your name flash by. I was careful not to blink, but I saw your name there. So you worked on the original Little Mermaid.
Indeed I did. I was a background painter, and it was my first feature that I painted on.
Now, this movie, they say, was the first entry in the second golden age of Disney animation. It's the one that really brought Disney animation back from the depths of the Black Cauldron, and I don't know what else there was. But what happened? How did that happen all of a sudden? How?
Well, I suppose they got a hold of some people who knew how to write a story and tell it, and that's, of course, that is the underlying basis for all good story or all good films. Is you got to have a really, really, really good story, and this one was really, 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 really good. And of course, there was the extra additional icing on the cake of the music by Ashman and Megan.
Now that's another thing. You and I talked once before about Ashman, and I was really surprised when you said that Ashman had a big influence on the story, because I thought of songwriters just like these people. Okay, you go write your songs and send us the songs, and but you're saying you told me that Ashman was actually involved in the story.
He was. Apparently he was. Now, I didn't know him personally. I met him maybe once or twice, in some kind of giant meeting of some sort. But I was just a worker bee when I was on that film. So I didn't really have any interaction with those guys. But I've been told, I was told that the guy was very, very active, in the story. He had some really good suggestions that they followed.
See, it amazes me that they even would listen to a lyricist. Why? How did he even get into those meetings? How did he even get his voice up there? That's what's surprising. Because everyone wants to have their hand in the story.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
As far as I know, well, I do know that for sure. Macon and Ashman both were very involved in the story because they had to write these songs that carried the story forward. A lot of their songs were sort of transitional from one sequence to another maybe, or one thought or one idea or one situation to another. They were kind of transformational. So they had to know about the story, and I think, I'm just assuming that they were so well respected that they knew that they could pipe up and say, it would be easier if we do this and that, and, switch this
That song, part of my world, part of your world. Okay. I'm listening to that song, and tears were coming to my eyes. It was taking me back to the original, and but also, that song is just damage proof. I mean, that song is so great. It must be one of the greatest songs from that whole Ashman and Menken era. Maybe another really great song is the one from Beauty and the Beast, where they're singing that, kind of difficult and strange, learning you can change, finding you were wrong, that Angela Lansbury sings. Maybe another one, there was an Aladdin song that I really liked, I Can Show You. But it's the Magic Carpet Ride, the whole new world. The Magic Carpet. But actually, that part of your world, that one, I think, that one stands out so crazy.
Well, I'll tell you, at the premiere, the cast and crew premiere, and I have never seen this at any other premiere, that song got an ovation.
Holy smack!
Yeah.
See, I don't know why was Jodie Benson never invited to sing the national anthem at the Super Bowl?
I don't know. See, in 1989, I guess Jodie it was Benson already I guess it was already established that major stars were singing at the Super Bowl.
I guess so. I guess so. And it's people who are seen, like people whose faces we know. I guess that's it.
Yeah.
But I hope that Halle Bailey sings the national anthem at the next Super Bowl.
I would love to hear that. Oh my God, that would be fabulous. I would love to see that.
It had such heights, and then there were parts of the movie that dashed me to such depths. But I'm going to let you go first. The one thing that you told me before we talked was you thought that they should have just had an all-black cast. So, go for it, Betty. Go.
Yes.
Okay.
Why pussyfoot around? Just make it a Caribbean location, which we don't even know what the... I'm just assuming. I was trying to figure out what exactly this location was. The whole movie.
Just call it Port Royal. That was the name of the location in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Perfect.
Port Royal. Yeah.
Perfect.
All purpose.
Perfect. So yeah, and just make it an all black cast, and just don't mess around with flaunting all this diversity on purpose, because it has nothing to do with the story. And there was no it was pointless is what it was. It was just pointless and in your face.
White Eric. In fact, I don't know if you noticed, but they actually had to make an excuse for White Eric, where he was apparently found. He was washed up in the tide like frickin' Moses, and they took. Yes,
I missed that.
Somehow,
I missed that one. Okay, so
they actually had to have some. They had some awkward expository sequences where they're talking about why Eric is white and Mom is black, and I don't know where Dad is.
See, well, they had to stoop to something like that because they were just like, shoehorning all these black people and white people together. There was no point. It was pointless. Just make the whole thing, make it an all black cast, hearkening back to those all black films, all black musicals of the 40s. Just make it all black. Why?
So what else? Do you have anything else? Because I'm going to start launching into some diatribes here.
Well, okay, it was too long.
Yes! Okay, and I'll tell you why it was too long. Okay, go on.
Well, yeah, there were some extra songs in there that we didn't need, but...
Okay.
And that was for one thing. But,
yes.
But, in general, I felt like they were trying so hard to stick to the original, but they just couldn't. It cannot be translated into a live action film. It just can't.
I know.
You cannot recreate. You cannot recapture lightning in a bottle. You just can't do it. They shouldn't have even done it at all in the first place. They shouldn't have redone it in the first place.
No.
At all.
No.
It didn't need to be redone.
No.
And
Flounder and Sebastian.
Oh dear God! Oh dear God!
God!
Creepy. They were creepy, and so was Ursula.
Ugh. Oh, you didn't like Ursula either.
No, I didn't. She was too mean. She was too creepy and mean and too evil. Now, in the original, she got softened up a little bit because she was originally when we were looking at those dailies, she was, especially at the end, she was evil. And it's like so much so that there were, enough notes from the crew that they kind of toned her down a little bit towards the end there. But
really,
yeah, there were some scenes in there that were scary. They were actually scary.
Really? Yeah. Wow.
There was an element of just like pure just evil to her.
Evil.
Like just evil and scary and like powerful evil.
Ooh.
So they toned her down, but. Of the three of them, of Ursula and Flounder and Sebastian, and also Scuttle just was totally off the rails. Of those four extra, these secondary characters, I would say Ursula was the least offensive. But I still didn't like her. She was too CG. A lot of these characters were very CG, and a lot of the environments were too CG. There wasn't enough motion blur on. I think they didn't have enough time, maybe, to really, because there were some CG problems for sure.
Well, give me an example of a CG problem, artist, person who knows.
So in a lot of those, maybe it was in Under the Sea. But elsewhere, whenever there was a lot of swimming involved or a lot of cuts, like a lot of action scenes where these mermaids and mermen, these mer people were making fast moves through the water. They were too cut out. Maybe they needed also another extra little bit of lighting, like a little bit of reflected light. I think they just needed more time on those scenes. They just needed more time on them because they weren't finished. They just weren't finished enough.
Okay.
For me, the sisters.
Oh yeah.
The sisters looked very CG to me, as well as did Triton. it was definitely a CG film. I don't even know if there are any live action plates in there. I mean, maybe a couple of skies. It's a CG showcase film.
Yeah. I'm looking at Ariel and I'm thinking, how much time did she actually spend on set and not in front of a green screen? I've seen clips of people, like Tom Hanks voicing Woody in Toy Story. Yeah. And it almost seemed to me that Tom Hanks had more freedom to interpret that character. I mean, like you can see him acting with his whole body, even though he's standing in front of a microphone. And I almost think he might have had more freedom and more ability to just let go and act than, say, Halle Bailey did, because I often got the feeling that this is a girl who's standing in front of a green screen. She has a script girl in front of her, and she has no idea what's actually going on in this scene and how it's going to add up after everything's been edited. I mean, I just didn't get the wackiness and the exaggerations and...
Well, I'll tell you that the voice actors for animated films frequently have influence. They have influence over the animators, which is why you get those, the appropriate actions from those animated characters, because they animate to the dialogue. They animate to the dialogue, and they have the video of those people recording. And if they
really,
like, I know, yes, and
so it's soundtrack first and then animation second.
Oh, absolutely, yes. There's no other way to do it. There is no other way to do it. And, yeah, and frequently the animators will pick up some gesture or just like a habit that maybe somebody has with their face or their eyebrows or something, and they incorporate that into the character, which is why they always just meld so well together. So you would not be able to do that the other way around with, just acting and just standing in front of a green screen and pretending that there's something around you. So there is a qualitative difference.
Well, and I saw that, I think, particularly with Sebastian. I remember how Sebastian looked so much the part of a troubled courtier who you could see him wearing white gloves and a tie and while wandering around the palace. And so it turns out that was actually inspired by the voice actor and not the other way around.
He is one of the classic examples of that, because he got his whole body into it, and especially that song Under the Sea. They took all kinds of cues. He wasn't standing in front of a microphone. He was acting and emoting and feeling everything and pushing it out and bringing it in. And the animators got a whole lot of material just from his body. So that is why all that works so well.
Okay, so we're talking about the movie being too long. By the time they were in the castle and Sebastian was saying, okay, I've got to figure out how to get these. She was like drifting off to sleep, and he was saying, all right, I have 3 days to get these two to kiss each other. Mm-hmm. Right there, I just thought, this movie has dragged on so long to this point. Now, just get to the scene where they're kissing each other. And I'll tell you why it has dragged on, why I thought it dragged on too long. And this is related to story, and I think it may be related to the translation from animation to live action. It seems to me that in the live action, it looks to me as though the creators, the writers, whatever, felt they needed to make more excuses for what was happening for the story, and they wouldn't just let the fantasy go. Okay, now, I'll tell you what I mean. For instance, do you know what the backstory was of Disney's original handsome prince from Snow White? Do you know what his backstory was?
No.
He didn't have one. He didn't have one. And as I recall reading about the production of that movie, they were tinkering with backstories. In fact, they were experimenting with backstories, and they even had a backstory, and they just started chipping it down and chipping it down and chipping it down. And finally, they just eliminated it altogether. He is nothing but a figure of romantic love. That's it.
Well, that's what he was. Yeah, that's what he was in the original animated film, the original Mermaid. And I got to tell you, for that reason, his nickname among the crew was Prince Generic, because there was nothing to him. There was nothing. He wasn't Prince Eric. He was Prince Generic because there was nothing to him. He was only there. He was only there to serve one purpose, and that was to be a hunk for Ariel. That was it.
I defend it. I defend it because she was the one. This is her story. It's the Little Mermaid. And it's about her story, how she wanted to go up there and be with the humans, and how it happened in the end. But I'm okay with him being happy, goofy, loves dogs, adventurous, handsome. That's all we need. That's all we don't need for him to be some washed-up orphan who wants to engage in trade with the people who are selling the quinine and stopping the malaria, and then him with his eternal Hamlet-style self-doubts. Always, should I go this way or that way? Oh, why am I hesitant? Oh, do you realize I don't think there was one time, not one time, when he flashed a totally happy smile. He was, look at that film again, his face is always crunched over itself in doubt and questions, questions, in sorrow, in regret, and whatever. Even our final glimpse of him. In fact, the big, hug, kiss, whatever, belongs to Triton. It's Ariel and Triton. That's the big embrace. And then off they go, and Eric is behind Ariel on this boat as it speeds off, and his face is all crunched over, like Elsa going off with Paul Henry in the end of Casablanca. I just never got this sense of two happy lovers just going off and living happily ever after. I mean, they carried all these burdens with them. And this ridiculous backstory he had, like where I said, where he just washed up like Moses on some Caribbean shore and got adopted and whatever thing. And then this backstory between Triton and Ursula, that was in the way. It's funny because every time this new material came in of backstories or histories between characters and conflicts, it just... all the oxygen went out of the movie for me. I just thought, get back to it, go to a song, quick, go to an action scene. Like, never before have I been so eager to just get out of the dialogue and go to an action scene. And for instance, now in the original one, I don't remember that Triton and Ursula were brother and sister, and they had this sibling rivalry thing going. And the other thing was Triton's beef with humans. In the original one, it was just like Capulets and Montagues. They're fish eaters. You can't blend them. And that's all you need. You don't need this whole thing about how they killed your mother. Yeah. You don't need that. Just all you need is he's hostile to them. He doesn't wander with them. They're fish eaters. You don't belong with them. That's all you need. And the same thing with that mother, that foster mother of Eric. Our worlds cannot blend. Obviously they have fins, you have feet.
That just irritated me so much.
That sanctimonious woman. Oh my God. It turned into a thing where, oh yes, the Capulets and the Montagues can get along if they just get one of you people to give up her flippers for feet and whatever. But it just interfered with the happy ending to me. I didn't need to see all those mer people in the end. Look at the mer people and the humans.
That was awful. That was awful. And just, I'm going slightly off topic here. I was absolutely, I mean, it was laughable to the point of just hysteria that they kicked in a outboard motor at the end so they could get...
I know! The outboard motor! Just, what the hell? What was that?
I mean, so
what was that?
We all know Triton can do these things, but what? I mean, they were supposed to sail off into the sunset. They did not with a rooster tail behind them.
They destroyed Eric. He was supposed to be, like I said, he was supposed to be happy and goofy and ideal and idealistic and adventurous and entranced with Ariel, just completely just focused on totally in love with Ariel. He was supposed to be all that, and he turns out to be this guy who just goes and confers with everyone at every step and doubts himself and wonders whether he should pick this girl or that girl. Oh, what was I thinking? And then in the end, he takes Ariel off on this kind of, this forlorn adventure to God knows what. And I thought they destroyed the happy ending, which is just supposed to be him and her on the wedding cake. That's all I want out of the end of a fairy tale. Not this,
an outboard motor.
I don't care about them going off.
It was just ridiculous. Completely took me out of whatever I had left of my enchantment with it. Was gone when that motor kicked in. Oh God, it was just ridiculous. That was just dumb.
Oh, and my God, what happened to the song and the whole sequence where Sebastian was going to get
gone. Yeah, it's gone. Yeah,
it's gone. See, and that right there, that was part of the whole, fish eaters thing. I mean, that was like, they really are going to eat. But that was a sequence of so much. It was just so funny and thrown in there. And admittedly, it did not advance the plot, but it did add some, or it did provide what would have been in this movie some much needed humor. This was missing humor. It was all so full of doubts and regrets and bad decisions.
There were a few lines that Sebastian had that were delivered really well and in a humorous way, but his character design ruined it. I just couldn't. He was just such an ugly creature, and the sound effects of him. That little. Oh God, that was the little clicks. Gross.
That you never saw Flounder grinning Flounder. Oh, Jesus, I wanted to put Flounder in a pan and fry him. Yeah, there were so many of those visual joys that were gone. Here was another problem. We talked about this with the actress who played Tinkerbell in Peter Pan, and I was, because she's mute, and if a character is mute, they had better be able to act so well with their body. I mean, she should have been a dancer, she should have been an acrobat, I was saying. Now, Halle Bailey spent, many significant scenes mute, and she just didn't convey, the desperation of a girl who wants to speak but who can't. And she also wasn't sufficiently well miming the parts where she was actually supposed to be. Okay, I can't talk, so I'm going to have to do this other thing. Like she couldn't mime.
It's as if
she couldn't mime. The way that animated,
Yeah, it's as if she surrendered. I am sure that was a directorial touch. Yeah, it was too low key, too obvious. It was just too much because she would have been gesticulating wildly. Maybe I don't know. Maybe writing. She didn't have her voice. Couldn't she write something? Of course.
Well, that's what Ariel did. I mean, I remember where like Ariel was. I mean, when she lost her voice, she was gesticulating, and you could see her communicating by with her whole body. And another thing, in fact, the very first instance, which actually was such a stunning expression of what she had lost, and then they cut this out. They changed all this. Was when she realizes she's lost her voice, and that is she's on the beach. Eric comes across her and he says something like, "What's your name?" or "Who are you?" And she says Ariel, except no sound comes out. But you can see her going Ariel, her voice. And in fact, the first time I saw that movie, I saw it with a bunch of other people, and everyone in the room went, "Oh, that moment worked so well," and they didn't do it. They not only did they not do it, but they did it with this clumsy exposition. "She doesn't speak, sir." I mean, that this servant says, "She doesn't speak, sir." Instead of just letting it show, all that hope and disappointment was lost. That moment. And even I don't remember how it went in the original, but when she does recover her voice, in the movie, in the live action one, Eric said, "Ariel," and she just says, "Yes." Why didn't she say Eric? She just says, "Yes. You have correctly identified the object. Affirmative." But another thing, okay, I'm just jumping to another, because I'm remembering the scene now where she's in bed and they're talking about it, and she doesn't even look like really happy and cozy and tucked in that bed. In fact, when she gets to up in the sun, up where they run, they lay, they stay all day in the sun, I never got a sense that she was just like so overjoyed to be dancing and using her feet. I never got that. I mean, it's just now
That's
I'm transformed.
What I mean, where they tried to recreate the original, tried to recapture that lightning in a bottle, and they couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. It just was not possible.
No.
It was not possible.
Well, again, when I actually walked out of my theater, it looked brighter to me than it ever did at any point in that movie, including in Jamaica. Yeah. I mean, even how did they make Jamaica look so dang dreary? Yeah. I wouldn't want to take a vacation there. Everything was always covered in dust or fog or film or something.
Or it was at twilight, there were very few scenes where you actually saw the light of day. Characters were in shadow. I mean, it was dark. It was too dark. It was a dark and stormy movie.
Yeah, I never saw her getting her day in the sun. I never saw that.
No, she never got that. And like I say, I was just too disappointed and distracted by by a zillion CG elements that they just did not have time to finesse. There were too many of them. They just didn't have the time, and they were cut out. They just didn't. It just didn't work.
I don't know if this was because of the translation to live action, where they felt that, gosh, now they're actual humans. We have to explain things. We have to tell why they hate each other and why they feel this way and how they got here. I don't know if it was that, or just because they figured, hey, let's this is the thing. Nowadays everyone has a backstory. Everyone has a traumatized childhood or something. Everyone has some moment that defined them way back in the past. So let's do it all.
Yeah.
But
they forgot to just entertain us. We just want to be entertained. We don't need to learn any more lessons. Thank you very much.
Well, we don't even need to learn that much about the characters in a fairy tale. All you need to know, like this villain is just the embodiment of one of the 7 deadly sins, whatever. Like this villain is vain, or this villain is greedy, or this villain is jealous. Or that's all you need. You don't need to know that Triton cut her out of her inheritance, and therefore, you don't need to know all that. That's why I thought that story got slowed down, because they just kept on having these needless conversations. They kept on justifying things, kept on explaining things. In fact, I remembered another thing about the animation. In the beginning of the movie on that ship, Eric just kind of blends in with the other sailors, and I thought, okay, if this were the original one, the other people would be short, dumpy. I mean, they'd be funny looking, like Smee or LeFou or any like the king in Sleeping Beauty, and the handsome prince would like the minute you see the handsome prince, you would go, oh, that's the guy, because he looks normal. He's
handsome.
he's the only. He's handsome. Yeah. Everyone else just looks like a freaking animal of some sort, or they are an animal. But in this movie, like I'm looking, okay, I guess that guy's Eric, right? But he's still wearing like dirty pants and wet boots, and he's got his shirt is dirty and everything, and he did not stand out as the handsome prince. He didn't stand out as the guy, and that's another problem with the live action, is that we just don't have these visual cues that just say, here's the just watch this guy, but see. Those things that's what I want in a fairy tale. I just want, I want to know. I just surrender to the fairy tale.
Yeah, which is what we did the first time around. Totally surrendered.
That's right. Yeah. That's what you did the first time around. And it goes, like I say, it goes all the way back to Snow White. All the way back to Snow White, where they gave that, and by the way, do you know that prince's name in Snow White?
No.
He doesn't have a name. He does not have a name.
Prince.
He is just the handsome prince. The prince, that's all. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I didn't dislike it as much as I thought I might, but I was just brought down over and over and over by what it seemed to me like the writers thought was necessitated by live action.
Yeah, me too. Like I really was totally digging Halle Bailey's performance. I really liked her. She's so cute, a sweet, beautiful voice. And I thought she did a very good job of acting. I thought she did a very good job. But, like I say, overall, I just wish it was a completely black cast. But my other main letdown, I wouldn't even say it's a complaint or a gripe. It's just like so depressing that there's you can't help but compare it to the original as you're watching it, and it just falls down every time. It does not compare. It's such a shadow of a shade of the original. It's just, you know, if we had not had the original to begin with, then it would have been a somewhat okay movie, and then we're off to the next movie. But as it is a disappointment. It's a huge disappointment. You know, I mean, they were going from animation to live action. They needed to really capitalize on what you can do with live action as opposed to what you feel like you have to stick to with the animation. You don't have to. I mean, and you shouldn't anyway, because it's a whole completely different genre. But they didn't consult me, so there you go.